Molly's story is the story of every single American and immigrant and foreign resident who had an idea, or whose dad or grandpa had an idea, or whose grandson or granddaughter has an idea. That's Molly's story, and that this is the current state of the American patent system, which once was the greatest in the world, and that's the one we learned about and we all believe in. And Molly's going to tell you why all that's turned upside down.
Well, my quick of the story is, maybe you guys all know this, but I started competitive jump rope when I was 7 years old. So jump rope has been a huge part of my life, so much so that I built my whole business around it. In 2007, I designed a jump rope for myself, and it was such a great jump rope that I went to a patent attorney and I thought, this is so unique, I'm going to file for a patent. And so I was awarded my first patent in 2010 and the second one in 2012. It was a big, long process. I mean, 4 years for the second one. I had to borrow a bunch of money from my mom. And I just didn't think it was possible. And then I received my certificates, and I just thought, I was just really proud, you know. I just thought only really smart people got patents. So I set off on my way to start a manufacturing business, selling jump ropes. And I had purchase orders from companies for like 5,000 ropes a month. I mean, that's a lot.
And where were they made?
All my ropes are US made, all sourced in parts and everything from the US and assembled in Boulder, Colorado. Well, that's part of the story. So from 2011 to probably 14, that was the height of my business. But Rogue started stealing in 2012, and so my business and sales went down. 2012 is when I had my communications with Rogue Fitness. I have emails, I had phone conversations with the owner, Bill Henninger. He was so excited that he was going to be working with me. He was going to do a licensing deal. But then he started mentioning some things, like he had already had some cartons or crates coming from China. So a couple months went by, our communications went silent, and then he just announced his new jump rope on Instagram.
Oh my!
So I asked him, I said, hey, I thought we were about to do a deal, and he says, talk to my attorneys. I was just opening my, I was the first person to open a jump rope gym in the entire country. I was very proud of that. I had about 150 kids on my jump rope team and over 200 kids that would cycle through my programs. When somebody says, you know, talk to my attorneys, that means a lot of money, and it's money I didn't have and resources I didn't have. So I let the few years go by, and every year Rogue would come out with a new jump rope, and they would have a sponsored athlete on the jump rope. And then again, that's where my sales start declining. I start losing business. And then finally it was 2015 or 16 that I gave up everything. And I stopped coaching my kids, and I always cry when I talk about this. But I one day will. But I just remember that it's like I love what I do, and I want to go back to coaching kids, and I'm sure I will one day. But I mean, it's just, you see, you know, this happening to you, and you have to make a choice. Anyways, so I gave my team away, and I closed my gym, and I closed my CrossFit gym, and all I did was fight infringers. Finally, in 2018, we decided it was time to go after Rogue. And then that's where you guys kind of know the story now, which is, you know, it was a 4-year, what I thought was going to happen was going to court and getting a jury and a judge and
being able to show your emails.
Yeah, all my emails and all the willful infringement. And then it's just confusing that, you know, for 10 years, I walk around very proudly with my patent, and this isn't even about money. This is dignity. I've had patent on my jump ropes. I've taken money from people who have honored my patent. And then our government says, well, Molly, your patent might not be valid. And you need to go over to this court, and you need to spend $500,000 in 4 years of your life and show us that it's valid. And I lost.
And it's, what did the patents protect specifically in this case? Was it the bearings, the eyelet?
Well, it's what we call a combination patent. It basically protects the. I have a version right here. It protects the
Dirk knows.
perpendicular. Yeah, the perpendicular wire that's constrained in its movement coming out of the eyelet, and then the eyelet has a full swivel.
You see the little silver ball?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the main part. The main part is this articulating swivel joint in here.
Yeah, your hole is not the eyelet. Your hole is actually through a ball bearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the ball
Oh.
bearing happens to be positioned in the eyelet. So you've got
Yep.
multiple degrees of freedom.
Oh, yep. Okay, I can see that.
It was a very expensive process. To get my first 2 patents, it was between $30,000 and $40,000. And then all the maintenance fees leading up to the very end, I don't know, I'll call it another 5,000 to 8,000 in maintenance fees. And then the whole process of showing the validity of my patent was around 500,000. You don't get to have your case in Colorado. It got moved to Ohio, so I had to get new counsel in Ohio. And then when you get to the PTAB, you also have to get an expert instead of your counsel, and that was about $150,000.
Oh boy.
I used all the money that was coming in during the time of suing Rogue. I was getting licensing money every quarter. I never saw a dime of that. That all went to my case. And then I had to get some loans, and now I
think we're still-
have legal bills. Yes, I am broke. I have probably $800 in my business account and $300 in my personal. It's my dignity, and it's not okay to give somebody, you grow up as a kid reading about Thomas Edison and patents, and it's exciting when you get your patent, and it took a long time. And when everyone's rallying behind you and saying you're an inventor and you have this, and you walk around and you say how proud you are, and you sell your products, and then in 3 months, it took 3 months, by the way, that's how long the process. The PTAB hearing was 30 minutes. It was on a Zoom call. It was during COVID. There was a barking dog behind one of the judges, and that's my life's work on the line, and they disregard you,
So
Yeah, so the current posture is it's a cert petition that's finished its initial briefing, which means either on the 17th or the 24th of February, the justices are going to discuss whether to grant cert at their conference. You work so hard, you get your reward from the government, and you think it protects you. And Molly really says it's better than I do. You think it protects you, and you find out that it was just a piece of paper that people can stomp on and trample with the help of the government. The very same building where they help you create the rights, they help your enemy destroy the rights. So Bill,
This is the U.S. Patent Office. This is the
Right.
Patent Office of the United States of America that is doing this.
And it's asymmetric warfare is what Dirk is getting to. It's the gotcha that if you ever catch someone who's doing you wrong, they actually get the right to drag you into the favorable forum. So Oil States was a fairly large energy company, actually, as you might imagine, out of Texas, I think. And they were victimized by the PTAB, and they had taken up the breadcrumbs that we had left and made their case in 2018, Josh? I think that's when the decision came down. So in 2018, the Supreme Court rejected the challenge that we had laid the groundwork for, but it was a 7-2 decision. And Justice Gorsuch, writing from a very doctrinally conservative perspective, basically told Molly's story without ever having known anything about Molly.
Wow.
His dissent is just a beautiful essay on what happens when you demoralize the entire innovation class with a law like this. When you really, really peel back the layers of how the statute is written, it must have been some kind of mass hallucination that everybody convinced each other that lawsuits filed in court have to stop. But you read the law and you compare it against the pre-existing legal principles of our system of justice for the last 230 years. You don't have to stop the lawsuit. It changes complexion a little, but it still goes on, and there's still a chance for someone like Molly to prevail. Everyone in my industry, except for Josh and myself, thought that all the challenges were used up. But this is a really, really correct, legally correct challenge. The experts are reading our briefs, like Dennis Crouch on Patent Leo, and they're saying, wow, they make a good point. It really comes down to this. You've had a magazine subscription in your life, I'm sure, back before they were electronic, and you get them in the mail, right? Now, when you canceled your magazine subscription, did you have to send all the issues back? No, of course you didn't. You kept what you gotten in the past. You just cut off the future magazines. The word in the statute is canceling. That's the word. When the rubber meets the road, the only word in the statute that can create any kind of effect that can cut off any kind of rights is the word cancel. That is a forward-looking word. It should not be used to retroactively say that something never existed. And there's a thread here, and I hope you've felt it already. There's the thread of why is an executive branch of the U.S. government overruling or controlling the day-to-day operations of the judicial branch?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we letting that happen? So basically, at the impartial adjudication level of the PTAB, you're supposed to have 3 judges whose only job is to get the right answer. Well, guess what they have to do? They have to pick up the telephone when their boss calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if their boss, the leadership behind the scenes says, we kind of like this outcome instead of that outcome, what are they going to do? They don't have lifetime tenure like a federal judge.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to keep their personal livelihood and their income and their jobs
And their bonuses.
and their bonuses too. They're going to do what their boss says. And this isn't me talking. This is the Government Accountability Office has surveyed PTAB judges. What is it, like 3/4 of them believe that they have personally encountered undue influence in their decision-making from leadership. This case today is about, now that you have a cancellation decision, what do you do with it in the federal court where a lawsuit was stayed? And the question is, you now reopen the lawsuit. What happens now? And the conventional wisdom and the groupthink and the received wisdom was, if you're the patent owner and the inventor, you gotta take your ball and go home. Actually, you have no more ball. You have to go home and let the other guy take your ball. You paid the final maintenance fee after the federal circuit decision. In other words, there are payment annuities that you have to pay to the patent office to keep your patent in force. Otherwise, it just naturally expires at certain time points. But if you have a valuable patent, you pay the maintenance fee. Well, you would think if the PTAB process, when it cancels a claim, extinguishes the patent for all time, you would think they would refund the money, all the money that you paid in. They don't refund a penny.
Right.
They took the money. They don't refund a penny when they cancel your patent. It's just this horrible, catastrophic irony. And this effort of Molly's, I mean, kudos to her. It's not about the money. It's not even about Molly's dignity. I mean, Molly is stepping up for everybody and all innovation in this country. Yeah.
Okay.
And let me just, at the risk of being in the weeds for one more second, you got to punch through some apathy when people hear this story. And the apathy is sourced in the idea that, well, it's invalid anyway. Why should we sympathize? That's tough medicine if you're on the receiving end, but it's invalid anyway. And my response to that is, these were obviousness determinations by a group of 3 low-level bureaucrats. It's the most subjective determination in all of patent law, and it's a litigation outcome. It's not a preordained received truth that we're trying to find out what God intended. This is a litigation. It's a social truth.
This cancellation determination, which we have, it's like a certificate of cancellation of your claims. It does indeed mean that, okay, it's canceled from now on into the future, but from now on back to the past until the moment that Rogue started infringing, they owe us a lot of money. They're liable for what they did.